Hello, I'm Tommy Moore, founder of the Bartitsu Lab, and in this particular session we're going to focus on an often missed element of self-defense, and it's the most basic. If you want to learn to defend yourself, priority one when it comes to physical tools is learn to hit fucking hard. When you're in a physical confrontation, there won't be nearly as many strikes thrown as you have in your sportive environments. So when you're boxing, and I'm a boxer, whether you're kickboxing, whether you're grappling through your transitions, the number of techniques, the number of movements, the number of actions will likely be markedly less, or the time frame in which you throw them be markedly shorter. So you might be throwing 12 punches, but in the space of 10 seconds, as opposed to 12 punches over one round. So you need to be able to get used to hitting very, very hard in a short space of time. And what I want to explore with you today is the notion of always having some heavy artillery in your bank and knowing in your mind what your strongest shots are and making sure that they take up due priority in how you train, because how you train is how you fight. And if most of the fights that you end up in are going to involve fewer than 5 solid hits, those types of hits need to be strategically thought through, you need to practice them, you need to get used to them, you need to be comfortable with them, you need to rely on them. So it's important to be able and know how to hit really fucking hard. And we see in lots of martial arts, people get so used to building the breadth of techniques, building compilations of hundreds and hundreds of techniques, that they forget that in reality I might need fewer than 10 really good, solid, scary, horrible techniques. So I'm going to share with you my top 4, and I encourage you to self-investigate and think about what your top 4 will be. And they'll be different for every person based on your skill set, your preferences, your body type, your body weight, and the scenario you're in. But I typically go into 4 techniques. Some of the overarching principles for all of these techniques, and for me this is kind of a checklist criteria. So the first, I actually borrow an Okinawan term. A good friend of mine, Steve Lowe, a karate instructor, introduced me the term of muchimi, which is sticky hitting, the ability to hit and make sure you're not being too percussive, that you're not just striking and taking some of that energy back with you, but that you're driving in a kind of sticky, weighted fashion into that technique. And we see when we're in lots of pad and bag culture, we get too used to being fast and percussive. Snap, snap, snap. Sometimes that's very good. In sportive competitions, I need to be able to snap out techniques because we both know a fight's on. We know it's going to probably take longer than a round. We need to have some decent snap. But the principle of muchimi from Okinawa and later Japanese martial arts, sticky hitting, penetration. And we also see this in bare knuckle boxing, in pugilism, the notion that we're not just snapping out blows, but we're driving those in. So again, whilst it's not as predefined as it is in Oriental martial arts, the notion of being sticky with your hitting, putting some serious force behind them and commitment to them is very, very important. So what you will notice in a lot of Western martial arts and in the Bartitsu I teach is that there's lots of weight transfer. So we are dropping our weight. So if you're familiar with Jack Dempsey and early boxers, you'll see things like the drop step, where essentially I'm dropping my weight. As my foot hits the ground, my strike lands. So my weight transfer is as my weight's coming forward and somewhat down, it's at that moment or just prior, my fist hits you. So my mass is going into the shot, and use of mass. People get so used to the idea of technique and speed, they forget mass. But mass is one of the big killers. Moving mass at speed is your definition of force, is your definition of power. But don't forget to think about the mass, how I bring all of my body weight behind me. I'm a big guy, so I can get away with using slightly less mass if I need to, because the mass of my upper body and my arm is probably more than what a lot of people have in total. But you need to leverage maximum mass. So if you're a smaller opponent, there's no point using your smaller weight behind a blow. You need all of your weight into the blow. And that's where things like the drop step, dropping into things, make sure your hips are on target, that you're using your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your feet, all driving into shots. It's very, very important. Depending on the system you're working in or the platforms you're working in, how you kinetically do that technique, how you move and deliver it, will be up to you. But in reality, always try and think about, am I putting as much body weight into this shot as I could be? When you practice, record yourself. Am I putting only 40% of me into that shot? How do I get it to 60%? How do I get more intention? Bad intentions. So I'm going to share with you my 4 hard bastard techniques, and these are my go-to because I've got good machine me with them. They're good, heavy, sticky hits. I can transfer mass, so the mass that I do have, I can drive fully into an opponent. I can use my weight to serious advantage to cause maximum carnage. Also, I like these because they are flexible from different positions. It's all well and good having a really good right cross, okay? But you need to get used to the notion that my right cross needs to be good standing up, sitting down, on one knee, on two knees, leaning down over you, punching up. So again, when you think about the types of techniques that you're picking to be your heavy artillery, don't just think we're both standing up. Think about all the different variables that make up a fight. Standing up, sitting down, kneeling, lying down, differences in height, differences in weight. These all factor. So the techniques that you've got which work well across all of those spectrums should be the right ones for you. But I'll share my 4 with you now. Now, the first of these is a long tetsui, or hammer fist. So if I'm doing it from a French tradition, mato, so you know, hammer, or tetsui from a Japanese tradition, jiu-jitsu tradition, hammer fist. I like my hammer fist relatively long, and I fire them relatively straight. So from a basic self-defense posture, I fire it out, straight, 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 straight. At the last minute, I hit you. Don't think of this, a lot of people aim with this bit for the hammer fist. Still use this hard, chunky element. It's not much different to a chop here. There's no point using the squidgy fingers. This little finger is crap. You don't want to use it. You want to be using this hard bit. So anything from the knuckle down, there is your decent hammer fist. Again, doesn't really matter if I hit you with my forearm or my wrist. Those are good, hard, bony structures, and some people prefer that, especially smaller fighters. You know, Nigel Trotman, one of my Jeet Kune Do instructors, he always using that forearm. It's nasty, hits you. So again, making sure if we are doing a tetsui at range, we're using this bit, we're driving force, we're driving it, we're not trying to drop down like so, but we're driving forward and smashing in like a train. So it comes in, smashes on target, rotates back without you dropping your hand so low. So I can repeat this several times. If I'm on my back, I can grab you by the hair and smash you with it. If you're on your back and I'm above, I can smash down on your jaw. So standing up, lying down, sitting down, I can do this long tetsui. So this is one of my power strikes, which I like to practice because I can do it anywhere and I can do it disorientated. If I wake up in the morning, a mugger in my house, I might not have the wherewithal to pull off a decent jab cross hook, but I can smash out 300 of these, no worries. So for me, the tetsui, you'll notice that I rock my body forward with it, and it comes in. Do it from this angle, so from here. So I've got mass, I've got power, I can hit hard with it. I'm not hitting too hard because my tripod is balanced very vicariously on a deck chair. So moving on to technique 2, and for me it's the corkscrew hook. So corkscrew hook, popularised by a boxer called Kid McCoy, but lots of other boxers have done it. I typically do it with my left hand, and you will have preferred hands for different preferred power shots. With my left hand, I roll a shot, so it's a hook where the thumb is down. I'm using these 2 big chunky knuckles behind the ear, along the jaw. If I need to, I can kind of get it in the angle between the eyes and the nose, but in reality, behind the ear and on the jaw is where I'm aiming. I like this because I take a diagonal step to my right as my left hand hits. Most opponents are right-handed, which means their power shot is coming from this side. So I'm stepping over here, I'm getting out of the way of that power shot. If I'm rolling this corkscrew hook, the upper part of my arm is defending my jaw, the part of my jaw most likely to be hit by my opponent's power shot. Here, and I'm dropping my body weight to the right. So just as my foot lands on the ground, I roll this corkscrew in, and I keep it tight. I don't need to hook it like so. It's almost like an overhand straight. I roll it at the last minute, straight, 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 roll, and only at that instant do my hip turn to make it more like a hook, and you can get some serious power off this. So from here, this side, so again, rolling technique, corkscrew hook. So that's part 1 of powerful techniques.